Hey, Miss Kate, how you doing, honey?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, so good to see you. I
Likewise, new
love that.
location.
I know, this is the first time I've switched up. I actually have the house to myself today, so I thought I'd make use of it. And like, I have my little cocoon back there that I'm normally in. I'm like, I'm just in the living room today. I have some space.
Nice.
I like your artwork behind you.
Thank you. La
Do you know
Toscana.
Toscana? Oh, Italy.
Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful. Uh, Catalina's trying to join. Wonderful. Hi, everybody. Hello, Catherine and Anna and Catalina and Jeffrey. How you doing, Jeffrey?
Doing well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Oh, we're so happy to have you here. Is this your very first session?
It is.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome to the workshop.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. How did you hear about us?
It was either an email or a Facebook post. I can't remember which one.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad that you're here to join us. We love having new people. We have a very tight-knit little family of a group here. So when we get new people in, it's so exciting.
Oh, great.
We're going to give everybody just another couple minutes to roll in. We had about 10 people signed up. I know some of those will be going to the later Alia's afternoon workshop. So just in case, oh, Daniel's here, wonderful. I knew we'd get a couple more. So we're gonna give everybody just a couple minutes to file in. In the meantime, I'm gonna have everybody open up their chat box. Jeff, do you know where the chat box, or I'm sorry, is it Jeff or Jeffrey?
Jeff.
Jeff, you got it. All right. So Jeff, do you know where the chat box is and how to use it?
I do. Yeah.
Perfect. I know we're all at different Zoom proficiencies, so I always like to check in. So pull up your chat box, and I'm going to have everybody just write one sentence, just a single sentence about where you got your name, your actual first name, where you got it. Take your time. We're going to give everybody about 3 more minutes to hop in.
Oh, sorry. It's on it. Yes. Good. Jeffrey must be oregano.
All right, we've got quite a few stories here going already. Can everyone hear me all right? The audio good? Wonderful. So I got mine from a Beatles song from the White Album, Julia. My dad was a big hippie. He had named my brother actually after Janis Joplin song. I'm sorry, he named my brother James Paul McCartney and my half sister after the Janis Joplin song Mercedes Benz. So we've got a classic rock theme going on. Daniel, it was the same as my biological father's, as my brother and I call him, the sperm donor. Nice. And then Catalina, from a famous Romanian poet, our poem. Jeffries, mine is a variation on my Uncle Jack, for whom I was named. Great. Anna from Mom, of course, whose mom is sitting right beside her. In case you haven't met Catherine, she's right there beside her. Apparently she had a college mate friend named Anna who was very sophisticated and elegant, which I think are two things that definitely describe our Anna. And Kate, maternal great aunt Kitty, I met her only once and always remembered her for the husband she had kept in a closet. He was an invalid who rode his wheelchair downstairs in an elevator, and for the freezer chest full of ice cream in the pantry. That is a story waiting to be written, Kate. That is so great. And then Anna, my middle name is Maria after West. Oh, I'm sorry, Catherine, of course. My middle name is Maria after West Side Story. Great. So what I'm hoping everybody is noticing as they're telling the stories of their names is that our signifiers, even our identities, not to conflate identity with name, but something as dear to us as our name, is built on relationships. And these relationships precede us. Before we were even born, they kind of call us into being. Every so often you'll get somebody here who's like, I came up with my name myself. I didn't like my name, so I chose a new one, which is fantastic. Even that describes a kind of relationship you have with yourself. So identities arise in relationship. Even identities that are rebellious arise in rebellion against specific norms, which again is a relationship. So in this month's workshop, we're going to be looking at relationships. We're going to be looking at intimacy and connection and how we are revealed to ourselves through each other and what we conceal in the process. So before we get started, I usually, since we have a brand new person with us, we'll talk about what narrative medicine is. Jeff, do you have any familiarity with narrative medicine? Have you done anything like this in the past?
I do. I've actually read a number of books about it, and I've been part of a narrative medicine group on and off.
Fantastic. Okay, so
I'm
you already
pretty familiar
know.
with
We'll skip the preamble.
Okay.
Basically, in short, narrative medicine is the study of stories as healing. And in this group, I don't know which groups you've attended in the past. Several groups are specifically for healthcare providers. This one is open to the public, although there are several healthcare providers here. And we look at the ways that stories inform our own personal healing, even outside of the clinical setting. So today we're going to be looking at a gentleman named Rene Magritte. Those who know me know this is uncharacteristic that we're looking at an old straight white dude as the artist. Usually we do not, but we made an exception for Magritte today because he's just wonderful. And he is known, he's a Belgian surrealist. He is known for really thought-provoking, really witty works of art that make you think and that make you question your relationship, your personal relationship to the artwork itself. I love looking at surrealist painters because they leave so much room for, so much scope for interpretation and possibility. Not to say that, all painting doesn't, but for a lot of us who are not as familiar with art history or painting in general, I think surrealism really opens the doors of the imagination. So the painting we're going to be looking at today, can everybody see this completely? Are my little chat boxes getting in the way? This is Les Amants, the lovers. I might have butchered that for anybody who actually knows French. And this is an oil on canvas from 1928. So we're going to take just a couple of minutes to sit with this painting, to enter its space and perspective, and to begin to consider the ways that it speaks to you. So in silence, just a few moments, you might write down some notes about details that are calling your attention, questions this painting is prompting you to ask. All right, we're going to begin. Well, actually, let's open the chat box one more time. I'm going to have everybody pop in just a thing or two about something they noticed in this painting, something that called their attention. While everybody is writing in the chat box, let's just verbally also start to wonder what is literally happening in the plot of the painting. And for this question, just answer out loud. You can take yourself off mute whenever you feel like it, since we have a small group. Just tell us literally what's happening in the plot of this painting.
Say it makes possible what's impossible.
Makes possible what's impossible?
Yeah.
Oh, tell us more.
It's I am thinking of some, because The Lovers, it's the title of the painting, and I guess I'm influenced by that, and it looks like the social norms doesn't allow the relationship, but it happens in a way. It's like it happens respecting the norms. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Yes, and that seems to really jive with what Anna and Catherine are saying about the star-crossed lovers, the lovers behind the wall. And for you guys, you're thinking that this might be socially imposed from the outside in, something that is not allowed by social norms, as you said, Catalina. Really nice. Does anybody see something different happening here?
I wouldn't say it's strictly different or anything. It's just kind of another thing that I noticed was it's kind of two things. It's the same thing, but it has two different. You can look at it different ways, but they're both obviously hidden from each other. They're both kind of can't see each other. They have a cloak over their head, which reminds me of like the whole the cliche love is blind. But also, I mean, looks don't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like. Maybe they talk and they get along. So there's actually the exact opposites going on here, and both are kind of on the surface are the same thing.
Cool. So from your perspective, whatever is limiting isn't happening from the outside. It's not even happening from the inside. It's actually a testament to how they don't need these limits because it doesn't matter. That's a very different perspective. And I love how there's room for both here. But let's go even higher level, just literally without looking into meaning or guessing at an analysis. Literally, what is happening in the painting?
Two people are locking mouths through fabric.
Yes, great. And literally, what is the setting?
A wall or a pillar on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what the blue is.
Yeah, it doesn't show us a lot about the setting. It's just very vague.
Yeah. Does anybody see something different about the setting than a wall with a pillar?
The sky, it's kind of
The sky, yeah.
Maybe it's sky, maybe wall on one side with sky.
it's kind of an imitation of nighttime in a way. It could be, I know it's not pitch black, but it's kind of after dusk.
It also, to me, has the quality of a painting. So could it be that they're standing in front of a painting or something?
Ooh, that makes it super meta. I like that. Paintings within a painting.
Yeah.
Very cool. So a dusky sky, maybe a painting. What else could it be?
I mean, I don't know why water would be vertical, but it kind of looks like water, like kind of the softness of water, fluidity of water.
Does anybody think it could be another wall, or there's like that little jutting piece of white almost looks like that signifies the end of the wall. I don't know. What do you think?
In the top right-hand corner, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like a
I don't know. What do you
little,
guys think that is?
it's like a little, it's like a cornicing or something?
Ooh, good word. Yes.
Yes.
So does a
Um,
cornice signal end of wall?
Yes, it's like an architrave or something. I'm looking around our room and it's Victorian, so it's exactly like that.
Oh, nice.
So it's like an architrave or a, yeah, or a pillar. Somebody said a pillar. It could be that,
I
but
like that you
it's
mentioned, oh, go ahead.
like a corner
Mhm.
piece.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that it picks up the white wrinkled quality of the hoods.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What do we make of that? So there's a similarity in folds, texture, and in the color of these two things. I want to return to what Kate, you said in the chat box about the forms of disguise, the costumes of gender identity, and the anonymity of hoods, masks, shrouds, making essential self more available. Can you talk more about that and how this might be reflected in that piece of the wall too?
Mm, mm, hmm.
I know, I'm putting you on the spot. You're so smart though. I know you can do it.
No, I don't know. It's very interesting to me that there are no visible facial features. I mean, we can see the outline of the nose and we recognize foreheads, but the wrinkles of the material almost have more, they're more detailed.
Let me put myself on silent. This is the downside of me sitting in the living room because I have 5 dogs. Hang on 1 second.
Oh my goodness. So I don't know what to say. It's, is it anonymity and a string? You know, does it make them farther apart from one another, or does it bring them closer? The fact that they're not distracted by what they actually look like. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it.
Does anyone else have thoughts on that? I want to elaborate, piggyback on that idea.
Well, it's interesting the way Kate kind of said the word distraction, as if, you know, the details of the face can be kind of a distraction for what kind of the purity of love would be, you know, not looking at the face and the eyeballs and stuff is more than that, like as if those things are distracting. I just thought the word she used distracting there and it was kind of interesting. It's like hiding it, obviously, your focus or something.
I think one thing about the shroud, especially on the, what I'm assuming is the male identified character, is that not only is he wearing his tie, but the cloth is wrapped around his neck. So for me, it's a noose. And so there's death in this picture for me. And I don't know, you know, is the kiss or the romantic or erotic or spiritual connection between two people like a barrier, like a way of warding off mortality?
Oh, I like that a lot.
Or a way of denying it and pretending it doesn't exist? I don't know. It's almost like that little white cornice, that little white wrinkly thing up in the right-hand corner. It's almost like a profile of a nose and a set of lips looking down, angled down at the couple.
Ooh,
Kind of creepy. Yeah.
that's very interesting. So,
Kind of brings an Adam and Eve quality to it.
yeah, with some sort of God figure watching from above. But we don't really see the expression, whether it's one of approval or disapproval. If we look at the lips and nose as a person, it just seems kind of mute and a watcher. And I really like the idea too of the noose. When I've looked at this in the past, others have brought up funerary shrouds and how in certain cultures, this is very much a signifier of death, of having shrouds over the face. I'd love to continue mining this idea of death in love without prompting us
For
to get,
me, what
yeah.
strikes me is that it's really tender. It's really tender and intimate, despite the masks and the shrouds. And you could think anything. I mean, are they doomed lovers? Are they going to going to their death, or is it an experiment to see whether not seeing their face makes any difference? But to me, there's something really intimate and knowing about their relationship, despite unknowing, I suppose, the mystery of of having something over their face. But the tenderness, there's something really beautiful and tender.
I love the way you phrase that, intimacy at the same time as mystery.
Yeah.
I really love that. Let's oh, go ahead.
No, I haven't formed a proper sentence yet, so you can go on.
Well, I'd love to hear it when it's formed. I want to move on to another part of the painting, and one that hopefully will allow us to bridge our conversations about the coverings. I don't want to call them shrouds because I don't want to pigeonhole them into being shrouds, but I'm curious about the postures of what appears to be a woman and what appears to be a man, at least in dress. What can we tell about the postures, and what does that reveal about the relationship?
They're really close. It could be a dance.
I like the idea of movement. Where do you see movement here?
I don't know. I kind of, maybe her arm, they could be, holding like this, doing a waltz or something. They're in the position for a waltz. It's like his shoulder is dipped, or I don't know. There's some kind of a sense of the beginning of a dance, maybe, or
I like that.
I just like the idea that it could be a dance.
Mm-hmm.
It's also that side, the side that Mum's referring to, that he's leaning towards, leading. It's kind of open to us. He's not like hidden his shoulder and his tie. It's quite open for us to see. Hers is quite straightforward, but it's a kind of an open relationship. But no, it's just there. It's not. I don't know. It's no, but honestly, I mean, it's kind of a presentation of some. I don't know. It just seems very. I don't know. Framed is the right word? No, not framed, but it's open. I'll leave it there. Someone else might say a better word, but.
I was thinking about trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think they have trust for each other or no?
I think so.
They do.
Why do you think so?
Because they are so close and they cannot see their faces, and it's like doing this, being blind, or
I kind of literally, I mean, this is just my eyeballs playing here, but I noticed the crinkles. I mean, I like the I love the crinkles and the smoothness together. I think two things, but I'll go with one first. But I think I'm not sure if it's just my imagination, but the way the crinkles are on the heads, the skulls. I mean, on his, it's kind of wrapped around. I know it's not her fingers, but it kind of looks. It's the same movement as if her fingers wrapped around her head, and similarly, it's the same movement in the crinkles of her head if the fingers were wrapped around if his fingers are wrapped around her head. So they're kind of holding each other. It just looks very, again, movement. Even though it's quite still, but there is that kind of fluidity and movement in it. And I just thought that was kind of an interesting part of my imagination.
As you're looking at the folds and the movement, I'm also noticing something interesting about the movement of the light and how it creates a kind of shadow play. Where do you think the light is coming from?
The moonlight above.
Why do you think there's so much shadow here?
Because love is blind and they are wearing executioner hoods and they're headed from the light of hope into to the doom of wherever love leads.
Okay, let's keep going. I like this bunny trail. Let's keep going. What about intimacy? What about love? Let me start over. Let me rephrase this. What is killed by love?
Lots of things. Truth, sometimes.
Keep going.
I guess the full picture, similar to Love is Blind, you know, cherry picking, and I mean, this is a certain type of love, obviously.
Logic.
Logic, definitely, like chemically.
Rationality.
Shouldn't
be a long list.
Individuation.
Ooh, I want to hear more about that.
Oh no, Julia. That there's a blending or a merging that can be desired or desirable, but they can also end up suffocating people. They can lose themselves. We can lose ourselves in that experience.
Yeah. Space can be lost.
I really like the word suffocation, because as I look at this, that's what I actually feel. I feel both. I feel the trust, the blind trust. I feel a kind of passion, but I also feel like, ooh, can you breathe under all that? That's interesting.
It's definitely a lot of passion I see in this painting as well. You said passion.
Yes. Jeff said, they're in a tight embrace, but there's a barrier. They can't see each other. Do they even know who the other one is? And I think that question really gets to the heart of what we're talking here about, what is killed and how to retain identity. You know, I guess the question we're kind of dancing around is the self as an individual different from the self in love? And does one kill the other in a certain way?
I think it does, right? As soon as you tell somebody, I love you, that's a huge risk that you take, in the sense that maybe it's not even returned. But once you do, you've kind of perhaps elevated you. You're no longer who that former person was, right? You've moved on to perhaps the more seriousness of the relationship or whatever, you might be having.
Yeah.
Huge transformation or shift.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
It reminds me of a conversation we had the other day with a friend, and I said something like, we were talking about, she has a new little baby of 18 months or something, and we were talking about the difference between romantic love and, say, a mother's love. And I said they're really so different. I mean, the mother's love is really kind of visceral, and you hurt, you really hurt, and you can do that with romantic love as well. But I said something like, whereas your child is part of you, it's part of your bloodline, and there's something very strong about that. Whereas your lover or your partner is a stranger, essentially, potentially. So that this reminds me of that, and what Jeff said, that they could be strangers, and perhaps even in an intimate relationship you can be strangers.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, are we strangers to ourselves too? There's a kind of mystery to each one that doesn't seem predicated on their joining. If you separated these lovers, they'd still be masked.
I mean, do they behave? Are you saying, is their behavior when they're together a mystery to themselves or a surprise to themselves, perhaps at times? How they behave in the relationship perhaps can be a surprise to them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It just made me start thinking a little bit further in terms of the hoods that perhaps they're in love, but yet the other person doesn't truly know who they are. And so there's that part that's just hidden.
A part that is permanently hidden.
And maybe that we lose our own, maybe somebody's already said this, we lose, not only are they strangers to one another, but maybe to themselves in the act of connecting to the other person, that we lose our sense of who we are.
So
I also wonder if,
Mm.
but yeah, if they can't look out at the world, are they looking inward to themselves? Or are they just, effectively blind because they have these, the clots over their face?
Mhm.
Not necessarily a bad thing to look inward either,
But the action that we noticed at the beginning, just the plot, they're kissing, right? See, it seems like it, right? Maybe. It appears as if they're sharing some sort of intimate moment. So if they're looking inward and reaching outward, what does this suggest about love? Or does anyone see it differently as something other than a kiss?
Could be a whisper.
Oh, well, I see. It looks like a little bit of it. At first, I was like, maybe her face is going around to his ear. Maybe it's behind. But then I see just what looks like a little bit of a chin on the outside. So to me, it looks like the mouths are connecting.
Yeah.
I feel kind of haunted by that Harry Potter, what are those guys, the Dementors or whatever, that suck the life out of, they suck the spirit out of other living creatures.
Yeah.
Oh, and in the spirit of Harry Potter, his image is getting lighter while hers is getting darker. Maybe, maybe he's sucking the light from her.
Or maybe
it could be mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Or maybe they are protecting from taking the other one's energy, having this on their face.
It's a COVID kiss.
Yeah, it's COVID.
I like the idea of a kind of protection happening here too, that maybe there's a good and a bad side of boundaries.
There's a codependence or something. Maybe Catalina, the way she was talking about how they're protecting each other. You can elaborate, Catalina, as well. I think I just picked up on my own word there, but kind of like a codependence or independence. I'm not sure. But
where do you see codependence here?
I mean, codependent. What does even that word mean? That probably. Healthy kind of relationship with each other. Yeah, I mean, not separate. Yeah, you can speak up.
No, and I was just asking you about the meaning of codependence. So, I mean, it's usually an unhealthy kind of relationship, that where the dependence on each other isn't a healthy one generally.
Does anyone else have a good working definition of codependence and how it might apply here?
It can be, another version of it is a relationship directed at somebody else that more appropriately should be a relationship with the self. It's a distorted or morphed relationship with the self.
So looking for
Focused.
someone else to make you. I'm sorry to
Hmm.
interrupt. Keep going.
No, that's it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Like looking to someone else to inform your identity rather than having your own is what I'm hearing. Is that? But then that makes me ask, because that seems to be an echo of what we started out this workshop by positing, that our relationships are always, our identities are inherently kind of informed by others. That, you know, so there seems to be in this conversation a kind of tension, a toggling between this idea of essence and self and independence and authenticity and being seen, and others, and you know, not manipulation but codependence, maybe sharing energy in a way that sucks it out of you like a dementor, you know, something that is not quite as safe. You know, we kind of keep toggling between the same ideas with the exact same images. Do you think there's space for both here, or does this painting seem to land on one prerogative or the other? Does it seem to, I guess this, what I'm asking is, does this painting have a moral to you, an ethic?
I don't know if I
trying
can
to
answer
teach
that,
us?
but there's no, for me, I just realized there is no joy
Yeah.
in this painting, number one. And number two, it's kind of lifeless.
Hmm. Yeah. I guess the only skin we get is the side arm, and her dress is the same color as the wall. So there's some, oh, keep going.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's very there's a formality to it as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that word a lot, Anna. Formality. Somebody mentioned that in the chat box as well, that these seem to be, Daniel said, the clothing worn, trying to place a period of time to it. There's a kind of, I don't know, someone else mentioned Victorian, not quite Victorian, but close in its formality.
Yeah, even an event in a period of time. I don't know. Yeah.
All of this reminds me of the word performance. You know, the dance, we're thinking they might be dancing, someone might be watching from the corner, the dress, there's an element of performance or performativity.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anna.
I just wanted to make an observation. Maybe everyone else has already thought about this already, but I mean, when I first saw the cloaks, I thought there were two different cloaks, you know, and they had their own cloak and they're over their own faces. But when I think about it, it could also be her, because I can't see where the rest of her cloak goes, so it might go around her, around him, and then around his neck. So I'm just wondering, are they the same cloak? And when did it drop on top of their heads? Was it before they kissed, obviously, and they couldn't kiss? And you know, I don't know. You know, it's interesting, the story behind the cloak. You know, what happened before.
I buy that, because you can see how it kind of slopes behind her head as if it's winding around and then coming back behind his and then wrapping around his neck. I like that. I like the idea of this as the same cloak. And if we look at it as the same cloak, what does that tell us about intimacy or codependence or any of these ideas?
Well, when I was thinking, when I was thinking of that as well, when I thought they were the same cloak, it's kind of like when you're in a relationship like that, when you're in this romance or this love, but it's kind of, they're cloaked against the rest of the world. It seems, you know, they're kind of oblivious, or they're kind of, I don't know how old they are, you know, as well. They don't look young really in their clothing, but I don't know. There's something that separates them from the world, maybe not each other.
Ah, so yeah, I it's kind of an us against the world. I'm imagining a couple pulling the sheets above their head, you know, that kind of intimacy. And yet at the same time, it wraps around both of their faces. So it's kind of a both and, right? Like from each other and the world.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Because I mean, if it was the same cloak, there's a possibility that you wouldn't be able to see the molds of their faces, because it would just cover that as well. But they have, it's kind of covered over the face before they've got to kiss each other.
Uh-huh. So we've been talking a lot about,
How
keep going.
you know,
Jeff, if that's,
it's not.
can you repeat that one more time, Jeff? Was it breaking up for everybody else too, or just me? Yeah, okay. Can you repeat that one more time, Jeff?
Yeah, it makes me curious about, how and why the cloths got there in the first place.
Yeah.
Did they choose to put them on? Did someone else put them on for them? And, the painting doesn't really tell us much about the reason they're there.
Yeah. And we can't see their hands. So if they had just done this to themselves and there was some sort of signifier in their limbs to show that, we can't see it anyway. So all of this seems to be circling around these themes of concealment, whether it's the wall or the performativity of the suit and the dress, or the cloth around the face. So much is being concealed here. What is being revealed?
Um, um, I'm not quite sure if it's being revealed. I'm not sure if I can use the word revealed, but I guess what's really kind of striking is, we've mentioned it before, but it's the white of the cloak. Like, it's so obvious. I think the cloak is so obvious. Maybe that's what's not necessarily revealed, but, and I mean, I'm very interested in the smooth parts of the cloak as opposed to the rippled parts, like the smooth parts that are so tight around their foreheads and face and stuff, and makes it thin there as well, as opposed to thick and very covering. I don't know. Just more observations more than anything.
Let's keep going with that idea. Why do you think it is smoother, maybe more definitive of their faces in the front than in the back? Or is it?
Yeah, I guess we use our front faces, obviously, 99% more than our back most of the time. We're very forward people. I don't know, driven forward, and
Mm-hmm. So even in the concealment, there's more definition on the face you put forward, even as you're covering it up. There's still an element of performativity in that kind of revealing of the front facing face.
Yeah. Or like that's how we communicate. We don't communicate with the back of our head.
Ooh.
That'll be interesting. But yeah, we communicate with our face.
Expression.
It's what is our face for? If it's not for love, which it clearly isn't, and maybe it's for something else, which is important.
I suppose maybe going along from that, it's about, picking up on what Anna's saying about the face. It's about expression, and that's how we communicate. That's how we show our love usually. In some ways, and in this instance, it's completely blank. Not only is it covered, but it's almost completely blank, bar the outline of the nose.
Yeah, there's no.
It's kind of slightly strange that it's so smooth compared to the ripples at the side. I don't know whether that would happen. It makes me want to put a cloth over my head and take a picture and see how the folds fall, because I suppose it's tight, so maybe that is how it looks. I don't know, but it is interesting that all expression is lost, except for the woman. I think there's something about her that is, she looks maybe there's an angle, and there's something about it that makes me think of the tenderness of it, and there's a little glimmer of expression. I don't know.
Yeah.
If anyone else sees it.
Yes, keep going, because we've talked about what's concealed, her expression, but what is being revealed in the woman? What can we tell about that tenderness, or how do we see tenderness here by looking at her body?
You know, there's flesh and there's a bit more color.
It's almost like you can imagine her mouth a little bit open or something. There's something about the way the tilt of her head,
Yeah.
and the looking up. It's almost like she's taking a breath or something.
I think the Catalina mentioned trust. I think that's the only
Trust.
place. That's the only place where I see trust. I mean, he doesn't look dominating. He looks rather like a gentleman, in terms of his head tilt. But she looks very like she's looking up to him and she's trusting him. Maybe traditionally, because that is traditionally what romance is like, you know. But that's where I saw trust personally, if that was the word that we would use. Otherwise, I'm not really sure if they love each other.
And when you asked about what is revealed, to me, I thought of trust.
Yeah.
Pointing to the way her chin is tilting up. That's what I noticed too. And going back to the comments you guys made about the openness of the shoulders, seemed to reinforce to me that this isn't a forced action, that there's an openness and a tilt. So maybe there is space for both here, that there's definitely concealment, perhaps codependence, perhaps an uneven sharing of energy. And yet there is trust, and yet there is a reaching for connection despite this. Like there's space
That's
for both.
perfect summing up for me.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I see.
Because they're kind of the way they're kissing, or on the shoulder open. That's well, I mean, not that I have experience with weddings a lot, but that's a lot of wedding photos or wedding kisses are like. You know, they're kind of at the altar and they're kind of tipping, and it's a very gentle, formal, but gentle and kind of and okay, appropriate.
I have something completely tangential that
Wonderful.
I don't know if I'm just using humor because I'm uncomfortable or what, but somebody mentioned formality earlier, and I'm looking at how the background actually could seem imported from another era, that there's something almost classical or almost Renaissance about it, whereas the people are dressed in what would have been in 1928 contemporary clothes. And I'm thinking about the fact that I've forgotten who the painter is, but that apparently it cost more when you hired a painter in the Middle Ages to paint hands. They required more skill. So the more hands that were painted in a painting, the more money whoever was commissioning the painting had to pay. And I'm just thinking maybe Magritte didn't know how to draw facial features and wasn't paid enough to learn how, his equivalent of a stick figure. I don't know.
I love it. I'll just put sheets over their faces. No one will. Oh.
I can do wrinkles. I just can't do eyes.
I love it. Which I mean, we could pull into a discussion about love too, about taking easy ways out, not getting too detailed or worried about the details at least. I love that, Kate. Thank you. So does anybody have a different way to view this or something else they want to say about the lovers before we move on to a writing experiment that's going to allow this painting to brush up against our own self stories?
Well, kind of tying back into what Kate and Catho said, we were thinking about you don't see the arms, and so they're probably lower, kind of giving you the idea that this might be more of that tender embrace. You might kind of expect to see the arms up over each other a little bit more if this was in terms of like passion, maybe that hadn't been a long time. Maybe this might be something of a goodbye in a sense.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, just following up from like a goodbye, I know we're talking about love and trust and sweetness. I still cannot I can't unsee that death or an ending in this picture. It seems like that is still kind of, it's not, whether it's present, it seems like it's foreboding and it's to come. And whether they're trying to ignore that fact or not, I don't know. I mean, because those cloaks, I know we've mentioned funerals, but me being still a child, I still see them like costumes for ghosts.
Brilliant.
Something about being.
I mean, because we would wear black when we would go to a funeral, and perhaps the person who's dead, being in a casket, might be wearing something different than that. So you can look at her face kind of being just dark and death, and this is their last, maybe this is his last goodbye kiss to her, and I don't know, that's kind of where I'm going, where she's kind of dying.
In light of all this, now I see that sky in the background as a storm coming.
Yeah. I definitely saw it as like a landscape to me, even though there's no land. It's kind of like dark black hole kind of. It's just stormy, as you say.
And maybe because there's so much light in this upper left-hand corner, I'm starting to notice, just by contrast, this is a dark painting. There's a lot of shadow here. There is a lot of shadow. The color palette, to me, is not an optimistic color palette, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
What does the color palette signal to you guys?
Well, I guess black is definitely, red is also, it's also, I don't want to say death either, but it's another kind of final color. Red is stop, and black is obviously no color. I'm looking for yellow here, but there's no yellow, or any other bright color. There's only like 3 colors here, except for her skin.
Red is blood. Didn't we have this in something else we looked at another workshop?
And then there's
cadmium red.
And I guess we've been looking at the cloaks as so masking, but they're also the whitest thing, which is like purity, as well. So,
or bones, skeletons.
Or bones, yeah.
Skulls.
There's something
Literally over their skulls, showing the shape of their skulls.
There's something very subdued about the colors, like almost mute, faded.
Yeah.
Faded, yeah, they're not bright blue or anything.
From Daniel, like talking about time or what they're dressing and saying goodbye, like they're wearing old clothes, old couple clothes in a way. Well, from my perspective as well, they look older. They don't look my age.
Yeah, it was made in 1928, so it might have been contemporary at the time, but yeah, there is a kind of antiquated feeling to all of this. That brings me to my very last question. I'd like everybody to have an opinion on this one. What is the mood of this painting to you? You can just say it in a word, or you can elaborate if you want to. Somber, says Daniel.
Slightly desperate.
Desperate. Interdiction. Okay, I need more on that, Catalina. That is a great word. You want to tell us more about that?
It is like I have said at the beginning. It seems like I was thinking about this around their heads, like somebody tried to stop them, but still I don't know. This is what I was thinking, like the people are interdicted. No, I forgot my English now, sorry. The people are just not agreeing with them and trying to stop them, and still they are together. Sorry?
Forbidden? Like,
yeah, forbidden, yeah.
Forbidding them?
Yeah.
Forbidden, love it.
I think there's a kind of, I don't know if it's mood, but like fear that comes from taking risks. Like worry, fear, I'm not sure. Anxiety, well, not anxiety, but just, yeah.
I like fear from taking risks, because that has, it allows the space to stay open, because it could be a worthwhile risk, it could be not. I like that. Fear from taking risks. Kate says impersonal. Jeff, did you just say something? I'm sorry, did it cut out? Jeff, if you can hear us, I think you might be frozen. Maybe you could pop it into the chat box.
Yeah.
Did we lose him? Oh, there he is. Jeff, you're back. Great. What was your word for the mood?
I just foreboding.
Foreboding. Great. All right. So just in broad summary, the words that have come out during this discussion have been intimacy, mystery, cornice, blind, hidden, goodbye, trust, foreboding, ghostly, somber, desperate, forbidden, fear from taking risks, impersonal, distraction, and love. So let's take all those words with us, or at least the moods with us, into our next part of the workshop. We're going to take out a piece of paper and we're going to write for 5 minutes according to a prompt I'm going to give you in just a moment, but I'll let everybody kind of get set up first. The idea here is, oh, go ahead, Kate.
Could you repeat the first words that you read up to blind?
Oh gosh, I didn't have them in an order. I just, let's see if I can.
Oh,
Sorry, do you mind reading them all?
I'll do my best. I just kind of like looked across the page. I didn't have them in a list. So okay. Somber, desperate, forbidden, fear from taking risks, impersonal, foreboding, ghostly, goodbye, cornice, intimacy, mystery, trust, blind, hidden, love. I hope I got all of them. I'm sure there are many more that I didn't even write down. All right, so we're about to start our writing exercise. The goal here is just to get words on paper. They don't have to be clever. They don't have to sound good. Just make this an experiment. Find out what you didn't know you already knew. Our prompt is going to be write about what you concealed or write about what you revealed. Choose one, choose both, whichever you decide. We'll have 5 minutes starting now. And if you're not on mute, maybe go ahead and put yourself on mute just in case, like me, you have a pack of dogs wild in your house. We have 1 minute left. All right, friends, wherever you are, go ahead and put your pencils down, even if you're not finished. Usually wherever we land is exactly where we're supposed to anyway. All right, so everybody here knows how this works, but just high level reminders. We're gonna go into breakout rooms. You're gonna be in a dyad, so you'll be with one other person. You'll share your writing if you feel like it. You don't have to. If anything comes up in your writing that you prefer not to share with anybody else, that is totally cool. Instead, we invite you just to talk about whatever, what the experience of writing something like that was. So you don't have to share your writing, just talk about the experience if you want. If you feel like sharing your writing, just read the words on the page. No preambles, no what you meant to say or how much time you should have had or whatever it is. Just read the words on the page. It's always already perfect. Listeners, we're going to listen with the same generous attention to detail that we gave Magritte and the lovers. You're going to look at details. You're going to listen for words, images, phrases that call your attention, any questions that the piece made you think of. Any questions that you ask the storyteller does not have to be answered by the storyteller unless they feel like it. Any questions on etiquette of the breakout rooms? Oh, good. Okay, I'm going to start the breakout rooms. We're going to have 15 minutes to share. So at about 7.5 minute mark, I'll send you guys a little note. It's time to switch, but you might want to keep an eye on it yourselves too, just to make sure that you have enough time to honor each person in your group. Catherine and Anna, is it okay if I pair you guys together as well? I'll jump in your breakout room so you get a little different feedback, just so you don't end up in a group of 3, and we can keep, since we have an even number today, we'll keep it as dyads. All right, I'm going to start the breakout rooms, and I'll let you know about a minute from when they're completely over as well. We'll come back to the plenary group. No questions? Any questions? Groovy, let's do it. Feel free to chat box me if you have any questions in the meantime.
Let's go, Mom.
All right, friends. Welcome back. Sorry we went a little over. I was with Anna and Catherine, and we were having entirely too much fun talking about everything. It looks like they haven't made it back here yet, though. Anna and Catherine, are you here and I just don't see you? Did I kick them out or something? Ah, there we go. I am terrible with technology. Anna, can you hear us? Ah, there you are. I'm sorry, guys. Did I kick you out when I?
No, it was my fault.
Oh, okay,
I
good.
clicked
Well,
leave
not
meeting.
good. I'm glad it wasn't me.
Oops.
All right, guys. So they actually inspired a really good question. Everything's falling on my end. They noticed that for them, the word desperation came up in a more complex way, that they realized it had a kind of passion behind it. Or they wondered if it had a kind of compassion or had a kind of passion behind it. I'd like to hear something from every person here that you learned either from your discussion with your partner or from our conversation as a whole. What has this discussion revealed for you about love or lovers? What has this revealed for you about love or lovers? And if that is too complex of a question, what have you learned in general today?
Just kind of thinking about this concept, perhaps that maybe we have this small, potential, this aspect of love, and through its experience of it, right, we're able to perhaps experience even more, right? So that can actually grow into something more. So the more love we experience, the more that, right, it allows it to grow even further.
Really beautiful, Daniel.
I suppose what I maybe have learned, or what kind of strikes me, is whatever we all conceal or try to conceal, whether it's to the rest of the world or to someone intimate, it's really important, those things that we try to conceal, and perhaps they shouldn't always be concealed for better,
Thank you.
That connects to something that came up for me, a visual that came up for me, and something that Jeff was talking about. This visual came up of the contrast between a moon sliver of a smile representing an ocean of emotion, that contrast.
How poetic. I love that. And you're saying a moon sliver of a smile can reveal an ocean of emotion?
Or that it's what we erect to hide the ocean of emotion. It's all we can afford, or all we can summon or dare or risk.
I love how there are elements of both concealment and revealing in that. Really brilliant.
I think that, love and even just human interaction happens both on a very personal, intimate level and on a societal level.
Mm-hmm.
And those two things are very much sometimes at odds with each other.
Great. So love is not just a personal thing, it's also a social thing. It's something that is informed by what society allows for and makes possible, even when it's in rebellion of those norms. Yeah,
Right. Yes.
I like it. I can tell you've studied narrative medicine. That's a very narrative ethics influenced idea.
For me, I guess I'm just thinking it's really very simple, but how how strong a feeling love is, how powerful it is
Mhm.
for, you know, both good and, you know, and danger as well. You know, I guess that's the desperation, the power of love for good or for bad, really.
Mhm. Powerful and dangerous. Great. Catalina, are you our last woman standing, maybe? Or...
Yes, I, I guess I'm staying with the idea of love and freedom, and this is, and I guess it is coming. This freedom is coming also from the societal level.
Love that. Freedom is coming from the social level too. So it's
Yeah.
not all limitation. It also, society also makes certain things possible. Beautiful. I think it's time I have to share Catalina's big success over the past course of the month. She has finished her PhD in Romania. So I just wanted to have a big group cheer for Catalina. Do you want to tell them just a little about what you're doing?
Just in short, I studied about professional identity construction for the future nurses, and I collected all the data from the students in nursing. I'm meeting them during the clinical practice once a week, and we are talking about their stories from the clinical practice, because it's a way of getting sense from the stories they feel the need to talk about more with friends, and yeah, and I hope I can contribute to the way the clinical practice is seen in Romania, because it's only evaluated and only on the technical part. Nobody asks them about their emotions, about how is it for them to take care of the patients, or to encounter sufferance, and it's I guess it's very important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, you're doing wonderful work, Catalina. We're so happy you're a part of our group. We're so proud of you.
I'm so happy to be here with you. Yeah, our groups contributed a lot of, I don't know, of getting more confidence in what I'm doing, because I guess this idea of using stories, especially in medical field, it's I don't know, it's something which can change, which can make a difference in the relationship with the patient. And I guess this is extraordinary what you are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, I couldn't say it better, that just by sitting to look at relationships like we're doing, we actually contribute to other critical relationships, the ones that we have with our patients and what we make possible, and the relationships they have with other healthcare providers. So thank you guys so much for being in relationship with me and looking at Magritte today. I'm gonna land on a little, let's see if it'll allow me to do it. Little quote from Magritte: everything we see hides another thing. We always want to see what is hidden by what we see, but it is impossible. So leaving with that note of possibility in impossibility, everything we see hiding another thing. I hope you guys launch into the week with lots of attention to what is hidden, even if it is impossible to truly see it. So, all right, I'll see you guys in a month. I'll send out a newsletter letting everybody know what the next date is. Thank you all so much. Stick around if you have any feedback or suggestions or anything at all. I'm always all ears. Congrats again to Catalina, and I'll see you guys in about a month.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We never want to leave.
I love it.
I kind of had a question.
To see Daniel.
I had a question more for Kath. I sent them both a message, kind of like this love, this dangerous, and this desperation to it. And I just kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about that. those aren't really words that we typically will describe when it comes to love.
Well, I was going to put back in the chat box. In fact, I have a very ordinary life, but a very ordinary love life too. But it's, I guess there's, you know, something in the ordinariness that's kind of maybe deep down wanting to get out or something. No, but I just that painting really kind of excited me and stimulated me about the whole idea of love being so, you know, so much passion and how wonderful it could be, but also how dangerous, you know, I suppose. Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but there's a lot of talk here kind of about domestic violence and gender-based violence and all that type of thing. I mean, we've had a couple of terrible incidences in Ireland that happened against women, and I suppose it's, you know, it makes me think of kind of coercive control and all those kind of things, and you know, the danger of love and blindness of it and that kind of thing. So I don't know, there's so much to think about. That's what it made me think of, Daniel. But generally speaking, I think love is great. It's a good thing.
I think it's really important that we tie in, you know, current events and real world stakes to these discussions, or else they kind of risk staying at that superficial level of just talking about, oh, you know, love is blind, love is, you know, good, you know, love is bad, love it, you know, like when you actually apply them to a real world setting with real world consequences, it really just deepens the conversation. I'd love to, you know, in light of domestic violence, you know, have a discussion about this painting, like perhaps with, you know, a group of survivors and hear what they think about it, you know.
Interesting. That would be and you know, I was talking about, we had a meeting yesterday and I was thinking of Daniel as well, because we like the GP trainers, and the talk was persistent pain. So I was thinking of it, and do you remember Anna in the CIC, Julia?
Yes.
Anna Bug, you know, the other GP from Dublin.
Yes.
She did the presentation. She's really, you know, she's really interested in it. She's brilliant at teaching and really good at this kind of thing. And
great.
And anyhow, it was kind of revolutionary for, I have to say, most of us, myself included, because we are way behind physiotherapists and physical therapists and you guys in relation to dealing with patients with pain. And you know, and I thought of you, I thought of both of you, and I thought of the course, and it was a fantastic, brilliant presentation anyway, and really exciting. And one of the girls mentioned, one of the trainers mentioned something about endometriosis and pelvic pain, and I thought of Eugenie Lee's painting, and you know, it all ties in.
It really does.
And I mean, you could say, and that's what, and that painting today, that's what it's really had a really powerful effect on me. You know what we just did today. So I think this is a really, really fabulous space and really, really useful. Very valuable, Even the poem the last day, I just loved it so much, and it made me think of, you know, relationships and misunderstandings and all those things, you know, that happen in life. So I think it's so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're attending talks on persistent pain with this background in mind, because I think especially when you're coming from an education in persisting pain, where you realize that the brain has so much to do with what it allows us to perceive pain around, then we have to start thinking about experiences as a contributor to symptoms. We have to start thinking about belief systems as a contributor. We have to start thinking about, you know, general mood and support system and social support systems and economic support systems. Like, it gets so much bigger and more complicated. And really at the root of all of that is story, you know, is
recordings, kind of what we record of life, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So to get that facility with listening to stories and listening to people talk about their, where they are in the world and how they're feeling about it, is not something that we're typically given in medical care. So I'm really glad that you, coming from this background of attending these workshops and then going to conferences on persisting pain, you see the links there, because I think it's really important too.
Yeah. So, did you read the Seamus Heaney's, Daniel?
The which one?
Did you read any of the poems by Seamus Heaney?
No, I didn't. I actually looked them up, and I really wanted to this past week, but unfortunately, my daughter ended up getting hand, foot, and mouth.
Oh,
She's
baby, isn't she? She's very small.
She's 7 months,
Oh.
and so she got it. She had a fever, and then my wife got it, and so then I it's
Oh no!
been rough around here the past over a week. So,
Oh no!
but no, I have that right there because I wanted to message back, and I wanted to read those, and I wanted to dedicate this time. And I think that's what it kind of comes down to, is like, let me dedicate time so it's quiet, and then I can.
We're pen pals now, Julia.
I love it. That's great, as it should be.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It really is.
Yeah, I put in a poem. I gave Daniel a poem the first time about. It's called First Lesson. I forgot who was buying it. Philip Booth. Definitely read it when you get a chance to, Daniel. It's lovely. But if you want to look it up too, Julia, it's really nice. Oh,
I was about to say, send it to me too. I feel left out.
Yeah. I haven't showed Mum yet, but I mean, it'd be ideal for you. I think I showed someone else. Oh, okay, I'd love to see it. Yeah, it was in the, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. I
adore you guys. Thank you guys so much for sticking around.
Yeah, thank you. That was so lovely. It was great. Great that Daniel's coming to the workshop. Yeah.
I know. We've roped him in.
Some of the others didn't come, don't come. It'd be nice to see Lorraine and some of the others, but I'm sure they might be busy and
I should, you're inspiring me. Maybe next time I'll send out like a little just specific to our group kind of incentive or something. Come in, join us. We miss you. I'll send that out next time. Maybe we'll get some more folks on board. But thank you guys so much for joining us every month.
Yeah, great to see you, Daniel. Keep in touch.
Yeah,
Bye. See you next month.
All right. Bye.
Bye.